Hey guys, we're back. Today we're talking about what's happening in and around Salt Lake City. We're going to cover a ton of information. We're going to be talking about a new freeway system that's about to open up here in a couple months, as well as some major developments and what's happening in the overall housing market here in Utah. We're going to talk about a lot of information here in this video, so I really do hope you enjoy this. What's up, you guys? My name is Cody Steck, your favorite Utah realtor. If this is your first time to the channel, I want to welcome you. If you're a returning viewer, thank you for your participation along this journey of talking about what it's like to live, work, eat, sleep, and play here along the Wasatch Front. If you are looking to purchase real estate here in the area, you want to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, please reach out to me. My information is here on the screen. I love helping people, and I want to be your trusted real estate resource of choice. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and jump into the screen and talk a little about what's happening here in Salt Lake City. So first up, we've got the West Davis corridor, which is set to be finished here in the next little bit. We're taking a look at this blog here from when it started. It says the West Davis corridor was set to begin in spring of 2021. So this is a project that has already been going on for 2.5 years. We're not going to go through what's going on here, but we are going to take a look at the actual map of what this looks like. So you have I-15 that runs north and south from downtown Salt Lake. If we come over here, this is going to be north of Salt Lake. So let me zoom out a little bit so we can all see this information. So you've got Salt Lake City right here. We talk a lot about Salt Lake County down in this area. And if you look here, you can see the orange road that continues all the way north. So you've got I-15 here. You've also got Legacy Parkway, which runs out here. This is the yellow one out here on the west side. Legacy Parkway, when that opened a couple of years ago, that was a huge, well, it's probably been about a decade now. That was a huge game changer for traffic going north into this area, because off of 215, you had to come up this road, cut across, and then take I-15. And I-15 just gets backed up. The traffic on I-15 going out of the city in the evening or into the city in the morning can be absolutely horrendous. So it's actually really nice that they opened up this Legacy Parkway roughly, maybe 8 to 10 years ago now, to provide better access here to the west side of town. In addition to that, you can see that they're also going to be opening this West Davis corridor to filter on the west side of town, as the name says, right? So if we actually zoom in here, you can see Legacy Parkway comes over here. It runs right along I-15 and then loops, conjoins back here in the Farmington area. However, West Davis corridor is going to do something a little bit different. Once you get up here to I-15, it's actually going to split off right here just south of Farmington. And we're going to see this jet off to the left-hand side. We're going to see it come over here, and you're going to see that we've got this new freeway. It's going to be 2 lanes each direction, and this comes all the way out here on the west side of town, west side of Farmington, up here through Kaysville, and then all the way up here into Syracuse on the west side of town. So as it stands right now, if you were going north or south here, your main freeway was going to be I-15, and that was really your only option. So if you lived out here in West Point or Clearfield or Syracuse, you basically had to go all the way over, whether on Antelope Drive, Gordon Drive, Ave, Gentile Street, whatever it might be. You had to come all the way over here to be able to go north and south. Otherwise, you're taking these little ancillary streets, and that just wasn't very, that wasn't doable, right? And so they basically come in here and added this new West Davis corridor. They're set to open by the end of the year, which is fantastic news. They weren't expecting to be open until spring of next year, but it looks like they're ahead of schedule, which seems to never happen with construction. And this is going to be a huge opportunity for people who live here on the west side of Davis and Weber County. So at the moment, it is going to stop right here, roughly in like Clearfield, West Point, but it will continue up here on the west side of town in the future years, right? They're going to extend this. They just aren't doing that right now because it's not as necessary for the housing up here in Hooper and West Haven. So for right now, the access that you're going to get to Syracuse as well as to this left-hand side of the valley out here by the Great Salt Lake, this is going to be huge. This is going to really alleviate the traffic that you get north and south here on I-15, just like the 89 did as they built this up here along the East Bench years and years ago, and have expanded it over the years. So this is really fantastic news. They're going to be opening up this West Davis corridor. This is going to be great news. Yeah, like I said, it's going to cut down on traffic, which is a huge plus. Next up, we're going to talk about the demolition of the old Utah State Prison, as well as the Point, as they're calling it, which is going to be going in here in this area. This is about a 600-acre plot of land on the south end of Salt Lake County, and the prison has been in the process of being torn down over the last year or so, right? It says crews began tearing down the old Utah State Prison last November by knocking down a decades-old guard tower to clear land for what will become a mixed-use development near the point of the mountain. Less than a year later, the site has been mostly reduced to scattered piles of rubble, mulch, and concrete. Isn't it crazy that it takes a full year just to knock down this old prison? That's pretty crazy to me. With more than 90% of the demolition complete and the rest scheduled to be finished in October, crews toppled one of the last guard towers on site and praised the progress, and officials praised the progress that has been made toward the point development. So let's talk a little bit about what this actually is. We're going to take a look at where this site plan is. So again, we've come back over here to Google Maps. For those who are not familiar with the area, let's take a look at this. You've got Salt Lake City up here on the north end of town. This is all Salt Lake County right in here, basically everything east of these mountains, west of these mountains, and then north here of these mountains. So this is Draper. If you are familiar with the area, you will know that Sandy, Draper, Riverton are all very nice areas, and the land here is very expensive. You know, if you want housing or you want a business in this area, it is going to come at a premium compared to other areas. This is very in demand point. A point of town, and the fact that they've got roughly 600 acres right here to be able to develop on is pretty amazing, right? It's not very often that you get 600 acres of land that can be developed in pretty much any way possible. And the thing that makes this unique is it's all owned by the state because it was the state prison, right? So now that all of that land is owned by one person and it's the government, they can kind of choose how they want to utilize that land in the best case possible. Oftentimes you've got private owners who are going to say, hey, you know, we want to do this, we want to do that, or maybe it's the city who owns it, or maybe it's another federal entity that owns it, you know, maybe BLM or you know, something like that. So this is a really unique opportunity, and this is your main corridor, right? You've got IKEA up here, you've got RC Willey, you've got lots of big, you know, warehouse type stores here in the area, and then you've got a ton of that as well over here on the east side. So this is a very central area. It's right here in between Salt Lake County and Utah County to the south, and so this is going to be a very desirable area, and this is really going to cause all of the real estate in the surrounding areas to become incredibly more valuable just because of what's going to be going in here. I'm going to show you a little bit about what that is and what that looks like, but essentially you've got everything from, this is the old prison site right here. You've got all of this land that comes up here, loops around all the way over here. So there is a ton of space here in this area that's going to be accessible for, you know, development. So let's take a look at what they're actually going to be doing over here. I'm going to come in here. This is the demolition update. It kind of shows you what's going on here. We're not going to take a look at that. There's some information here on the timeline. It basically shows the timeline. We are here in 2023 at the demolition. The infrastructure is going to be started in 2024 into 2025. That's going to take at least a year, probably two. And then vertical construction on some buildings are going to start in 2025 into 2026. So this is going to be like a 5 to 10 year development plan for this area. It's going to take a long time to build everything that they've got here. This is taking a look at the site plan. You can see I-15 over here on the right-hand side of the screen. They are going to have some access roads here into the area. From the map that we are seeing here, it doesn't really look like they're going to have really, you know, a very good like public transit system. They may not have very good parking. They may not have very good access with roads. I do hope that it looks a little bit better than what you actually have here on the map, because if they do come in here and they build condos and apartments and mixed use and parks and all this stuff, there's going to be a lot of demand. There's going to be lots of people and lots of cars coming to this area, and I hope they can accommodate that in a reasonable manner. So this is kind of the phase one development. Shows you this information here. You can see some renderings of the different things that they'll have here. Let's come over here. I actually want to come over here to the final plan to kind of show you what they've got. If we zoom, scroll down here, it talks a little bit about transportation. They do have some roads, the framework plan, bike and pedestrian. They're going to have tons of parks. If we actually take a look at this map, you can see they've got a lot of parks here. Let me get back to that one. So neighborhood park, edge park, window parks, the point, community park, connection to Jordan River. They've got all these different parks throughout this area. So there should be a lot of green space in the area, which will be pretty cool. It'll be very, very unique to see how this turns out, because there's not really anything else like this here in the Salt Lake City area. If we also take a look at this, this is going to give us an idea of what the overall area will look like, right? So they're basically planning on having 7 different districts. You've got the Canal District, Innovation Office, Wasatch District, also Innovation Office, the Hub, which is mixed use, which is going to be right here in the middle, the Ridge, which is institutional focused on the south side. You're going to have residential and residential on the South River, West River, and North River districts. So all of the residential is going to be on the west side, commercial on the east side, closer to the freeway, closer to those access points. If we come over here, you can see that they're going to have quite a variety here of different entertainment options. They're going to have office buildings. They're going to have an institutional district. lifestyle and retail, ground floor retail, and mixed use district, along with that residential space over here on the west hand side. So there's going to be a lot of different things going in here. It's really kind of hard to encompass everything that will be in here, but the important thing is to know that this is going to be a huge development, and it's cool to see this finally coming together. So with that being said, this is the last thing on there. I do want to talk about this really quick, and we're going to give you an update on the market. So if you watched this far in the video, thank you so much. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, and also if you are thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, please reach out to me, call, text, or email anytime. I love hearing from you guys. I've had hundreds of people reach out to me over the last couple of years and ask for my help, and I cannot be more grateful for that, and I'd love to hear from you for whoever's watching this video right now. So let's talk a little bit about the housing market as well as what's happening overall from what I'm actually seeing from being in the field every single day. This article here says, housing market, home sellers are taking losses while being called back to the office. While the sudden onset of COVID-19 gave rise to remote work and spurred a pandemic housing rush in areas like the West, those who bought homes thinking their situation would be more permanent are now having to grapple with a new reality. Return to office mandates are forcing some to choose between selling their home at a loss or losing their job. 1 in 10 home sellers are now moving because they're being called back to the office. This is very interesting information. 1 in 10 does sound like a lot, but at the same time, it's really not that much, right? There are a lot of people who did end up moving out of state or to another city because they thought they had that flexibility to continue working remote indefinitely, basically. But that's just not true, right? There's still a lot of people who are going to have to return to the office and return to where they once lived in most cases, unless they can get there on a reasonable basis from where they live now. So it's very interesting to see this here in Utah. They, further on in the article, they talk about how the western part of the United States, such as like Boise, Idaho, Salt Lake City, St. George, areas like that, they saw a huge influx of people moving during COVID, and then those people are now having to move out. We're not really seeing that here in Salt Lake. I don't think that's actually true. We're still seeing, some people move around. Of course, there's always going to be people who are moving or selling or buying real estate for one reason or another. But as we've seen it so far, prices really haven't changed all that much. Honestly, if you bought a house even a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, there's a good chance you could at least get out of it for break even. Maybe you lose a little bit, maybe you gain a little bit, but overall, not a huge thing for most people in this situation. They're not in a position where they actually have to go through that process and sell at a huge loss like this article is actually suggesting. Right now, the market is still very strong. We're still seeing prices, equivalent to what we saw this time last year in August, September, and October. So yes, prices are down slightly from the peak, but they have still been very strong over the last couple months. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. I guess it depends on which side of the aisle you're actually on. I do think there's going to be, some price drops coming. Interest rates just hit an all-time high. We're going to be talking about that in another video here shortly. So we're going to talk about all of that information in the next video. So make sure to watch that. And, I do think that we'll probably see prices come down over the next couple months just due to seasonality, high interest rates, and lots of sellers sitting on the market. I do think that time has to come, and I think we'll probably see prices come down, probably 3 to 8% over the next 6 months or so. So whether you're deciding to sell a home or buy a home, that's going to be a very personal decision for you and your financial bottom line. I'd love to help you along in that process. If you do want my advice, or even just to talk about what your situation is, I'd love to talk to you. My information's here on the screen once more. With that said, thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys in the next one.